Terrific. Well, welcome everybody to the NCL Coaches Call. This is our Spring 2022 debrief for the spring season. We're excited to have you join us. We're going to go ahead and get started with the agenda. We're going to have just this quick welcome to let you know what we're going to be talking about for this call. Keep in mind that this debrief really is for the coaches. So if you have any questions or if you have any concerns or anything like that, this is the great space for you to join us. We're going to have the commissioner remarks in just one moment, as well as going over some season review stats. We're going to talk about some spring 2022 season questions. And we also are going to have time for open feedback and discussion. Lastly, we're going to adjourn and talk about potential summer coaches calls and have a couple polls about things that we are hoping to have in the summer. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to David, if you wouldn't mind giving us some of your remarks for the spring season.
Yeah, sure. So just to start out, I want to just say how fun it was in class today, just to hear my students' discussions of the NCL team game, just talking about some of the challenges they solved and some of the ones they didn't solve, and just being able to talk amongst each other, amongst the teams of like, hey, who solved what, and how did you do that? It's always kind of fun. And then also definitely want to thank Skyline for putting on another great competition this year. Like I said, I got great feedback, at least from my students. And I think on this call, I'm hoping to hear from other coaches as well about what students had to say about the competition. But again, I think it went well, and I know we're going to look at the numbers, and it's great to see this competition continue to grow. So I think felt like a pretty good success.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Commissioner. And now we are going to move on to Franz, who's going to give us a little bit of those season review stats.
All right. Thanks, Em, and thanks, David, for your kind words. And I also want to extend thanks to all the coaches in NCL in general, but especially on the call. All of your efforts really help make NCL successful. We see the best engagement from the NCL players, and they get the most out of it when they have a coach who's encouraging them and having them participate. And so you really do make a huge impact on the success of the games and your students' future. With that, we've got some great season stats. And so this was every single year we see an increase with the different seasons. And so we had about 6,620 students registered for this spring season. And high school students keep making up a bigger and bigger percentage of that. I think when we first opened it up to high school students, we were seeing about 10% high school students. That percentage has been going up. And you can see there the breakdown between high school degree and non-degree seeking students. And so about 1,100 high school students, about close to 5,000 degree seeking students, and 606 non-degree seeking students. Those are students who are going to a certificate program, GED, or some sort of training boot camp of some sort. Oh, sorry, I made a typo here. With the individual game, I meant to write, the average was about 43 solves per individual. And with the team game, we had close to 1,000 teams, and they averaged close to 50 solves per team. And so I think you can actually see that there is definitely a benefit to working together as a team, because there is an increase in the number of challenges they're able to solve. We will have the full stats out shortly for the leaderboard for the team game. It's going to take us a little bit to conduct our team game audit. The individual game results are already out. And so last week we sent out the scouting reports, we sent out badges to all of the players, and we're planning on issuing the same thing for the team game, as well as getting the cyber power rankings out within about the next 2 weeks or so. So we're trying to have a pretty quick turnaround time for these, because we know that you're all eager for the results. Before we put out the power rankings, you will get the final leaderboard, so that will come out sooner. We're aiming for the end of the week, if not early next week.
Hey, Franz, I had a question for you too.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that we had a high school team that might have did really well in the team game. I don't know if the coach is on. you see the coach on the call?
I have to pull up the information for that one. So
Okay.
we had
And I know nothing's
number
official yet, but I just wanted
nothing's
to put that out
official
there.
yet. But I know that number 6 in the individual game was a high school student. We've been seeing a pretty strong presence from the high schools out in the Midwest and out in California. I don't know what's going on the East Coast, but yeah, the high schools have had a pretty strong showing, especially in California. Let me see if I can pull up. So I won't put the exact ranking because it's not confirmed yet, but we currently have a high school team that's in the top 10. And I don't know if I see the coach in the chat here. I don't believe the coach is in the chat. But yeah, the high school students are having a strong showing. I noticed earlier, I think Saturday afternoon, the high school team was like first or second place, and so it's getting competitive out there for all the college kids.
Yes, it is.
That's really exciting. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move now into some of our feedback questions. So everyone has the ability to unmute themselves, so I went ahead and changed that from our end. So if you have any questions, you can certainly put them in the chat box, and we're happy to read those off. Or if you'd like to unmute, please feel free to do so. If I need to mute anybody in case we have any background noise, I'll just go ahead and take care of that, so no worries. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the first question, which is, how did your students feel about the difficulty of the challenges?
Okay, well, I'll break the crickets here. So this is Doc from the College of Coastal Georgia. Hey, everybody. My students were very much engaged. They loved it. I think the ones they really hated the most was the web, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think the web is always challenging. And I think when you look across the board, that's one of the categories that students are challenged the most on.
Hi, this is Keith from Macomb Community College in Michigan. My students by and large really enjoyed it. Especially my students that did pretty well. And for me, the biggest challenge is getting them, I'll say, I don't say getting excited about it, but getting comfortable with something that's new for them, right? There's just this, overwhelming amount of fear of doing something that they're not familiar with. So me trying to get them engaged in it sooner is going to be a goal of mine, because like I included one of my higher level classes where they've really built up the skills to do well. And I try to set their expectations appropriately for the thing, like web exploitation is not one I expect them to do well on. And I tell them that up front. But the ones who did well, I was very pleased with.
Keith, I've got a follow-up question for you, because it sounds like you're trying to set expectations for your students. What are you telling your students to try to make them feel comfortable going into the experience?
Yeah, that they know more than they realize, right? That the assignments I give them in class, and this semester, we did, I had them participate in the gymnasium. I had them do the practice game, and then they did the individual game. And it's really just trying to get them, comfortable with the idea that they know more than they think, that they are capable of being successful at a lot of the challenges. I don't know. I think that's I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, Franz, but it is just trying to get them comfortable with the fact that they don't know the answers to everything up front, that they're going to have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To add to that, I know I've had students that go in expecting to solve all of the challenges. So I really have to set expectations so that they know that, when you look even at the leaderboard, I mean, on the current leaderboard, I don't know if there were any teams that solved 100% of the challenges. So first time through, set expectations of, yeah, you might get some of the easy, maybe some of the medium, maybe you won't get any of the hard, maybe you'll get some of the hard, but don't go in expecting to solve everything. That is
Right.
just frustrating.
David, I think that's exactly what I try to do for them. And in addition to that, I also compete in the individual game over the weekend. When I set the thresholds for them, as far as like, I expect you to get, this number of points to score an A for this assignment, or this level of points to get a B. I'm always trying to get an A. I cannot solve everything. And one of my students did better than I did, this season, which is pretty typical. Usually one or two of them do better than I do. They do. And I'm happy about that. And I think that as time goes on, I can say, look, it's normal for you all to do better than me in this. Realistically, they have more time in general over the entire weekend than I do. But it's a great tool, and I'm just trying to get them more engaged with it.
Absolutely.
I think the big thing that we see is oftentimes the students are so accustomed to kind of standardized assessments where they're expecting to be able to get a 90% or higher to get that A. And when they join a competition like this, we're designing it to really identify, who naturally has those skills. And so oftentimes we don't have people getting, and like no one gets 100%. And so actually the norm, I think average is closer to like 35 to 40%, because most students are coming in as beginners and they're not going to know everything. And so that's kind of why I asked that question, because I love getting feedback, understanding what are what are different coaches doing to make their students feel comfortable, because we want to see what type of language can we use to make sure that we help on that mission to make sure your students are comfortable and successful and engaged throughout their season.
Yeah, I'll say two quick things. One is one of the coaches call, like I think it was a year ago, was super beneficial for me when I realized, that some of the people competing as individuals have been doing this for like 4 or 5 years in some cases. You've got some like basically graduate students who are working their master's degrees, competing, who have been doing this for a long time, and they have a huge skill base. So that was very helpful. And I think the other a big change, again, like where I got my students really, I made it a requirement for them to participate in the gymnasium. I made it a requirement for them to do the practice game, and just trying to like help them and coach them along with those, levels really, I think, made a big difference in trying to get their comfort level up with it.
I definitely appreciate the feedback and the thoughts there, because yeah, I totally agree with you. And for some context, I believe close to 2/3 of NCL players are participating for the first time every season. And so you have a vast majority of students who are very new, but you also do have a lot of individuals who they are going to get their master's degree, or they've been doing NCL since they were in high school and now they're a senior in college, and they just have all that experience under their belt. So there's a huge range of the different skill sets available, the skills in NCL.
We had a question come in, if I can pop in real quick, from Joe. And the question was, how are challenges classified easy to hard?
That's a great question, Joe. So this is a little bit more of an art than a science. I think everyone's understanding of the difficulty is going to be pretty subjective based on your experience. In general, what we try to do is make easy challenges things that you could find the answer to if you're just savvy at learning new things on the fly. So being able to Google around for new concepts and pick up new topics on the fly, those are generally things where we classify as easy. Medium challenges typically require some sort of past education or training. So maybe you've taken a course in that topic, and that knowledge will help really kind of accelerate you. Although we see a lot of individuals who are very, very strong self-starters and can solve the medium challenges without that background. And then the hard challenges are things which we don't expect are really being taught in the vast majority of classes. That's where you might see some pretty specialized technologies. And that will require the individual to conduct their own independent research to be able to answer those questions. So to kind of summarize the spectrum, easy is stuff that you can pretty much pick up by yourself if you're just Googling around. Medium is stuff that you might have learned in a classroom. And hard is stuff where you probably haven't learned it in a classroom, and you really have to use your research skills and your critical thinking ability to be able to solve those challenges. And you can see that that third definition for hard there is very, it's very advanced. And so that's why you get people who don't complete 100% of the content, because there are these different hard questions across all these different domains, and it's hard to be an expert in everything.
I may have cut off somebody before. If anyone had anything additional for this particular feedback question, please feel free to speak up. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and move on to the next question. All right, so the next question is, did your students feel prepared?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I have a new headset, sorry. I am a first time NCL high school, and had 12, 13 kids that we tried to incorporate into the games. And yes, they felt somewhat prepared. They're my third year kids. We're a 4-year dual enrollment program at the high school. And our problem was the technology, because I'm subnetted to the district's network. We have our own fiber, but the machines that we had were crummy. And so it was difficult to do everything and to download everything. And so we had to figure out workarounds for some of the challenges, because we couldn't download and couldn't do certain things. But that's just something that we're going to work on. So I'm really, really thankful that we tried. Really want to do it again, because, we psyched the kids up into, hey, you're going to get a scouting report. You're going to have something. You're a junior in high school, and you actually have something to say, this is what I've learned. This is what I've done. And I think that's really, really important. I had 3 kids get internships at a junior in high school. So, that says something, and these kind of things help to support that. So did they feel prepared? To start, yes. It was difficult, yes. We had technology challenges and things like that, but it was definitely worth it.
That's great to hear that your students were so successful, and I think it's quite impressive. It's really hard to get internships, and especially at the high school level. So I'm amazed to hear that you have so many students at the junior level in high school getting internships. When it comes to the preparation, you said they were somewhat prepared. Were there particular aspects in terms of not necessarily the subject matter, but in terms of like what types of materials would be helpful and beneficial to help prepare them even more?
Well, I think, again, I was new to your program as well, and we hadn't been doing much other CTFs as well. What was difficult was probably the cryptography and the steganography, and some of the web things as well, because my students, their first year, they have basically an A+ class. The second year, they have 2 years of networking, or I should say 2 semesters of networking, 2 semesters of Linux, and then the third year security. They haven't had the programming yet. They haven't done a lot outside of the Linux. So when they had to apply that, if they had something like that in junior high or with another class in the high school, then they kind of got it. So we had to stair step them. We don't get into a lot of cryptography because it's, like I said, it's a dual enrollment program. So unless it touches on it a little bit in security, we don't do a lot with it. So I think we could hit your practice harder than what we did. So I learned a lot too, as far as how to prepare them.
Thanks for your feedback.
Franz, did you have any suggestions about the downloading of files that she was running into issues with that just because of subnetting and maybe firewalls?
Yeah, this is a historically difficult challenge because it's really up to the IT department at different schools and how they have it configured. Generally, we ask for specific domains to be kind of left unblocked. So the cyberskyline.com domain and the city and the .cloud domain, all of our assets for the challenges are living on those two domains. So getting some sort of exemption from your IT department to be able to access those without any restrictions is the way to go for the most part. We also kind of recommend as much as possible having students be able to bring their own devices, because I know a lot of school devices might have restrictions on what software is allowed to run on those machines. I think I see Toby on the call here. I don't know if Toby, if you want to chime in and add any additional information that I'm missing.
For a lot of in particular for schools that are using Chromebook, what we found is CyberChef as a tool is fairly sufficient in most cases, especially the ones that don't involve necessarily a whole lot of programming. Even a lot of the forensic log analysis challenges and things like that, those can actually all be done in the browser using just CyberChef. And we have people even solving the hard level log analysis challenge on CyberChef there as well. So becoming a little bit more familiar with that particular tool, I would strongly recommend it. It's entirely browser based. It's developed by the British GCHQ, which is their NSA effectively. So it's an incredibly powerful tool, and it's kind of designed for learners in particular. It's a drag and drop, point and click type of user interface. So it's not quite the same as Scratch, but it kind of has those vibes to it. So you're just kind of dragging and dropping different function blocks into it and then reconfiguring it. This can also be helpful for some of the students who are not as familiar with programming, because what CyberChef provides a lot is some of those programming blocks essentially for you without you having to implement software on your own. So that's an area that I think can be extremely helpful and help level some of the playing field for students who are not familiar with programming.
Anybody else have any other thoughts about if your students felt prepared for this season?
The one comment that a few of my students asked was they complained about the gym, and they said they love that it's open. Thank you so much. We love that. They said they're getting tired of seeing the same gym. So I don't know if it can be updated a little bit. I know that's work on y'all, but that was just a comment that they asked me to put out there.
I'm curious, have they seen the new videos that we add to the gym? I don't know if they've commented on that.
What they commented on, it's the same thing. So granted, they're in their second and third year. So this is like their fourth or third time doing it. So it's just like they're saying it's the same thing. So I'm not really learning anything new out of the gym.
Yeah. The gym is going to be rather consistent because we know that a lot of instructors kind of teach to it. So we don't want to like have that change too much between different seasons, but that is something where we've been like adding additional content to the gym to provide more value there. If there are any particular topics that you think any particular topics your students would like more coverage on, feel free to reach out. I can send you my email address so that we can.
I got your email. Okay.
Yeah, because we can take a look into incorporating additional topics.
Okay, all right. I'll bounce that back. To towards them. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think you see the in the chat, having the gym open earlier was great.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know, Franz, if you wanted to touch on even opening the gym even earlier.
We will, well, so we started opening the gym right when registration opens. We can, we're gonna stick with that. We're gonna have the gym open when registration opens, but I'm curious to see if there's any value in us having registration open even earlier, because I don't know if we start running into issues with you know, the semester hasn't started yet, and so you don't have your class. I see, Robert, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, and Franz, that'd be my concern. I teach at a community college, and we're a semester schedule, so we start in January, and that's why I like that you guys open it up earlier. I wasn't ready to use it. I mean, it was like that week I was ready to use it. It wouldn't be any good to me the first couple weeks of semester because we're all getting settled in and people are moving back and forth. So I don't really, for me here at North Idaho College, I don't think we need to have it open early. I thought that was really good because then I was able to integrate it in some of my classwork with the students. And we got a lot of time in the gym too. So that was really awesome. Instead of just the beginning of the individual game.
Yeah, I think that'll be the trick, is to try to just align the start of registration as closely to the beginning of the semester as possible. You know, even if it's open a little bit earlier, as soon as you're ready, it'll be available for you when your students are registered. All right, Joe's asking about something for the summer. That is a topic that we actually have a discussion point for a little bit later. So hang on to those thoughts for a little bit.
Yep, we got you, Joe. All right, we're going to move to the next set of questions. They kind of are a little bit one and the same. I'm going to go ahead and read them off for everybody. Why did your students not participate? So do you think that there are any other students who could benefit from NCL who are currently not participating? And then the second bullet here is, what would it take to spread participation beyond the traditional club, if you will, or limited groups? There's a lot to take away from here, but truly what we're trying to understand is, why do you think particular students did not participate that normally would be a good fit? Or maybe if your particular students didn't participate, or a section of them didn't, any feedback is very helpful for us.
Hi, this is Keith again, and I will say that if there's not a grade associated with it, it is like pulling teeth to get students to participate. I teach at a 2-year community college, and my students, usually they're taking a bunch of classes, they're trying to get through. You know, even though this is fun for me, you know, and I think it's fun for them too, once they are required to participate, trying to get students who this is like, you know, not a requirement for them, it's almost impossible. So yeah, there you go. I mean, I would love, I've tried to get my cybersecurity club more involved with it, and students who aren't taking like my higher level class yet, saying, look, this will benefit you. If you do this semester, you'll be in great shape to participate in the fall when you take the higher level class. And I rarely get students to jump in on that. That's been my experience.
And Keith, even for that grade, is that an optional grade, like extra credit, or is that a mandatory grade?
Oh no, it's like part of their grade. It's I'd have to double check on the points. I think it's probably like about 15-ish% of their overall grade. I mean, that's just for the individual game itself. It's like about 15% of their overall grade. Plus, they get a grade associated with competing in or participating in the gymnasium and the practice game. They get points for those as well. Initially, like, the first time I had my class participate in the individual game, I didn't assign points for the gymnasium. I just figured they would do it. I was horribly wrong, and so it's like, so I've had to start like assigning points to like the assignments related to the NCL and participating in the gymnasium and the practice game.
So I just put a link in the chat there for a shared Google Doc that we've had going for about a year now. I'm always curious, Keith, when you bring up including it in the grade to get students motivated. I'm always curious as to how people are doing that. Like, how do you grade it? So if you wouldn't mind, if you look at that Google Doc, if you go all the way down to like page 4, that's where I have grading, and I have a few people commenting already about like how they grade. And I think this is just, we have this actually as a link from National Cyber League site for under coaches. We have coaches tools, I think it is, coaches guide, just so everyone else can kind of see how others are incorporating into the class, because it's not super straightforward. So it's good to see different approaches.
I see, Chip, you have your hand raised. You can go ahead and unmute at any time. I can unmute you if you'd like.
So we're a community college down in San Antonio, and I think part of our problem is 70-ish% of our students are part-time, so they work full-time. I think it's a time thing. We tried to publish it as broadly as possible. We purchased 15 vouchers, so cost wouldn't be an issue. We handed out all 15, only 9 of them registered, and only 7 actually did any work, which made it easy for them to form a team. But I was disappointed at that. So this is something we're going to continue to, I don't know, struggle with, or we're going to keep pressing, because I think it's incredibly beneficial for the students, both for it's resume worthy work. This is the thing that helps them get a job when they enter the labor market. And I don't know, I'm looking for suggestions on how we can make it more important to them.
Thank you, Chip. And very quickly, for those who are just on the call and not actually seeing the presentation, I want to share a couple of the comments in the chat box to continue the conversation. Deborah said, the demographics of my community college include mostly students who are juggling jobs, family, and school. I had the same issue as Keith. If the activity does not align with the grade, it is a difficult sell. And along with that, Janet commented, agree with Keith, need to offer grades. And I let parents know about the weekend game. I gave points at higher percentage for game participation. And a lot of agreement with you, Chip. And Terrence stated, I had 51 sign up, but only 22 participated in the individual game. And we had 2 teams of 7, limited participation this year.
Yeah, I'll say a couple of observations from what I've seen be different coaches implementations of this as well. So I think what is it? City Colleges of Chicago, they have a dedicated class just for competitions. So, and that was a way for them to get students to dedicate time towards it. So they teach students how to participate in competitions, the skills and techniques there, and then obviously participate in said competitions as well. And I believe NCL is one of the few competitions that they do. I know some other universities, I think University of Maryland, what they have is a experiential learning course that is built in as a part of the curriculum. So students must complete some sort of experiential learning, whether it's an internship or research or something. And they've also made things like participating in competitions a valid experiential learning experience as well. So, but the latter there obviously requires a lot more changes to the program itself. So that might be a little bit more difficult to do. Similarly, introducing a completely new class, once again, may be a little bit more difficult. So just a couple of observations from what we've seen.
One more comment. Doc shared that the competition is about 25%. Whoop, I just lost, whoop, scrolled up. Okay. So it's 5% preseason, 10% individual, I think that's what it means, and then 10% team. So 25% of the grade is told upfront to the students. And Terrence also shared that SNHU has experiential learning also. 4 students this season and all 4 participated. We run the experiential learning in conjunction with NCL, undergrad or grad level, based on the dates of the events.
Yeah, so I think the overall theme here is there needs to be an assignment or some decent amount of grades associated with it to encourage. So, because I don't think we can go out and hand out $5,000 to the first place team necessarily to everybody. So, so some sort of grade incentive or even extra credit potentially could be a good incentive for some people. I know some professors do offer this as sort of an extra credit. So especially to some of the students who may be lagging a little bit behind. This is a good way to sort of help encourage them onto. I don't want to sound too judgmental, but better habits of staying on top of work. So yeah, I think the theme here sounds like some sort of external encouragements is definitely beneficial. So I think it comes down to how you all see it best to implement those influences.
To add on Toby's comments, though, about the $5,000, we actually do have a scholarship program available with our partnership with One in Tech, where if you have any students who are from a minority group or their first generation of their family to go to college, there is an application to get $5,000 in scholarship funds if they have completed at least 25% of the individual game. And there was an email that was sent out about that earlier today. So, that might be a good incentive in the future for students who normally wouldn't participate. But also, if you have students who did participate, that could just be a good opportunity for them right now. Because I know that the registration for that closes, I believe, like the end of this week.
It closes on Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So definitely a great opportunity to take right away.
And one of the additional benefits of that particular scholarship is that the students can continue to receive money semester after semester or season after season. So it's just a wonderful way to continue to have extra financial support that will go straight to their tuition. All right, we're going to go ahead and go on to the next question, and we will have time for open feedback and discussion. So if anything comes to you after I, pull up these slides, feel free to ask, even if we have passed the slide already. So this question is, are you encouraging your students to utilize the scouting reports in their future endeavors? We did hear some talk about the scouting reports, I believe with Janet. And so how are you encouraging your students to utilize the scouting reports, whether they're at high school, whether on the collegiate level?
Or if you're unaware of the scouting reports, that's great feedback for us
That's
as well.
great feedback too, yes.
So,
Sorry.
so
I was just going to say that, at the high school level, when we're encouraging them to build that resume, I printed out the scouting report, I showed them the scouting report, and trying to get them to prepare themselves for the whole package, whether they're going on to the university next or they want to go into the workforce, to have something tangible, a little bit more tangible of their skills and things like that is really, really important. And this is what will do it for them. And we also spend time building their resume. And I just saw you sent out an email regarding how to incorporate the NCL into their resume. So I'm going to be using that, because our last week of school is all about creating that resume, then putting it with the scouting report, and then their university map, if that's what they choose to do, and things like that. So it's all about prepping them for that next step.
So for my students, they know about the scouting reports and they have been using it. I would say about 60% of them get a job because of NCL.
That's quite a high number. How have they, do you know how they've been actually incorporating it in getting a job? Is that something that they're actively putting on their resume and that's how they're getting those jobs?
Yes, they are getting the jobs. And what I tell them is that the employer wants to know what you know, not just I went to college and I got an A. You know, your bachelor's is going to speak for that, but I tell them to talk about the competition, talk about how you got a hard challenge and how you solved it. So like talk about, hey, I don't program and we got this programming challenge and how you solved it. So that way it tells the employer that you are a creative thinker, you can tackle a problem and you won't stop until it's solved. And they've been getting jobs.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I would love to follow up with you after this to see if we can share kind of the success stories of your students, but that sounds
Sure.
fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
No problem.
Aurelia, were you going to say something? I saw you unmuted your mic.
I did. My students are aware of the report. I asked them to bring it to me, but they said they couldn't find it. So my job today, as a matter of fact, was to see if I find a video out there that tells them how to actually retrieve it. And if I didn't, I was going to come to beg for a seminar, perhaps, where in that seminar you explain how to get to the scouting report and the benefits of the scouting report. But I'm hopeful that I'll find a video and I can go from there.
The students should automatically get the scouting report emailed to them, so maybe they just didn't see it in their email.
Oh, good to know.
Toby, is there anything that you want to add?
Yeah, everybody that participated in the individual game. So that's the key thing, is they have to participate in the individual game in order to receive a scouting report. We don't create one for the gymnasium or for the practice game. We only do that for the individual game and the team game. So that's one of the important parts here. Secondly, as the coach, you can actually sign into the NCL dashboard, and there's an option for you to download that as a package, like as a zip. Once we send out the team game scouting reports, you all as the coaches will also get an email with all of your students, both individual and team game reports, in case you want to reference them. But starting today, you can go on to your NCL coach dashboard, and then on the right side, there's a download button, and you can download all of it. And I'll post a direct link into that in the chat in just a moment.
I was going to add one thing too for how I utilize the scouting report in my class. So one of the classes I teach is an introduction to computer security that all of our majors need to take. So it's an overview of computer security. And one thing that I have them do once they get their scouting report is to go through and find 3 jobs from the categories that they did well in. So they look through their scouting report, see what categories they did well, and then they need to find 3 jobs for each of those categories. And the idea there is really for them to be able to see that, hey, these skills are worth something, and I can actually apply these skills to these particular jobs. So just throwing that out there as an activity.
Yeah, and I'll echo David on that as well. In my experience working with students, once you tie something to value out in the quote unquote real world, that's when students like really start to see, oh, this is why this is important. Because I think a lot of students have been just learning stuff for the sake of learning stuff for a really long time, and it's never been that direct of a connection to, wow, my future career is going to be in this. So if you help them make some of those connections more vividly and maybe more tangibly, I think that's where the students start to respond a lot better. That's something that I've been doing with students of my own as well, just trying to see like how can we make that connection just vividly clear for them. And so far what we've seen at least is just by bridging that and helping them understand that you're not just learning this for your next test or for your next quiz, that you're learning this to be able to actually go out and have a career in this. And this is how businesses and industry will actually utilize this. This is what the job looks like, and this is how it directly translates into that. And I've just seen students respond significantly better than us telling them, well, this is important because you need to know this. So.
And I just added one more thing, as Toby, you were talking about, a link to how NCL skills align to the NIST NICE cybersecurity work roles. So that might be valuable as well for you to look at that, and have students look at that too, to see, hey, these categories actually line up to something that is nationally recognized.
I wanted to add something, Aurelia, this actually kind of piggybacks off what you had asked about. There's like a video out there about the scouting report. We actually have a series of videos that we did the past few weeks about the scouting report utilization and the point of view from the players committee. You can find those videos, they're player facing. You can find them on the Crowdcast channel, the NCL Crowdcast channel. And there's just different videos that really have the point of view of the players committee, showing them ways to incorporate the scouting report. How do they access it? Where do they find it? How do you utilize it on LinkedIn, social media, finding jobs, internships? Some really great info. And like I said, it's student facing, it's player facing. So it really is just a really cool conversation that they could just review. And in the Crowdcast videos, they also can go straight to the Q&A portion. So if they don't want to watch everything, they kind of just want to go where people are asking questions and getting the answers. It's a really neat resource. So definitely, thanks Franz for putting the link. Definitely check out the Crowdcast links. And like I said, all spring, we did everything kind of on a little sequential ride that kind of built up from the beginning all the way to the end of the season. And we had a lot of great talking points about the scouting report.
Awesome, thank you. And that's the reason why I was asking, because I remember on the last meeting when Franz explained about the scouting report. And then I recently learned that my student that was able, the last student that I had working on in NCL, he actually used the scouting report to get the position that he has now. So I wanted to make sure that the students that are in it now were able to take advantage of it. Thank you so much.
That's really exciting and heartwarming, I would say, for everyone on here, like on the staff side. That really makes us feel great. We put a lot of effort to make that this will be something that will be a resource for players. So it's really awesome to hear that so many wonderful things are happening by them utilizing the scouting report and really showing the great work that they've done throughout the competition seasons. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and kind of mosey to take a little left turn, if you will. We have about a good 10 minutes or so before we wrap up. We really wanted to talk about summer programming interest, but I'll put a pin in that for a second. We will have a moment where we're going to let you can ask any questions, concerns, anything for the spring. Just want to make sure I slip this in before we have a free discussion. I did have a couple polls I wanted to pop up. I believe it was Joe who he said, hold tight about summer programming. We are internally thinking of different things that we want to do over the summer. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a couple polls. If you wouldn't mind just giving your 2 cents. Are you interested in summer student opportunities? And with that being said, you'll see that bullet on the page that says any thoughts or suggestions. Nothing is off the table. We're interested in being creative and thinking about ways to utilize information in different ways over the summer. So if anybody has any thoughts or suggestions, you can pop them in the chat box, or if you'd like to unmute, we definitely all our ears are open to see what your thoughts are about the summer student opportunities. And I will leave that up for about a good 30 seconds more.
I'll actually type in if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely, Joe. Go ahead and feel free, and I'll be happy to read out loud.
Sure. So just some things that came to mind. So summer is definitely going to be squishy for most students to commit to a whole lot in general. Certainly at the 2 or 4 years, and high schools maybe, I'm not sure. But it would be a good setup for like a boot camp slash cyber summer camp. There's your marketing, where if the adults or early adults can't make it because they're working or different other time commitments or something, I suppose it could be a couple things. It could be either like a straight up, traditional, 1 week on site or something of that nature. That would be pretty doable. And then they can kind of like use the platform to basically work together as a group where honestly the points don't matter, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
So I zero pressure. That's what I'm doing in my shop, just to introduce NCL to our population. So it's like have some fun, do some things, and I don't really care about the points. Another one might be like a weekend thing for students. So thereby, if they are indeed booked with work, life, study, balance, something or other, then really it's just mobility. And I know all of us have gotten that crammed into our heads for the past 2 years, of like, how can we get at least the opportunity experience in front of them at a minimum. And I think that's, I don't think it'd be a whole lot of extra like do on your part. Like I was trying to think through the back end, like logistically, what would that look like? I don't think it'd be too heavy. Like what's your one-on-ones? If the scope that you were looking for was like, I can like Google my way to win EGs and maybe scaffold towards those mediums, that's a pretty good target point, I think.
Thank you, Joe. We really
Hell,
appreciate your feedback.
we have some 4 years. I'm just thinking this out loud. I bet you we have a number of folks who have done this for X amount of years. Bring them in, have them, like, since these are, people who know the ropes, what would it look like if they flushed out a challenge over the summer? So not that they are provided a challenge, but rather that they create one. That gets you out of the business of doing 100% of everything, which if you're like all of us, we're good. We need the breather as well. But like that would be good for your second years in your community colleges. Certainly anything for 4s and something like that. Yeah, that'd be kind of neat. And you'd have the data to go improve that, actually. That's it.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Joe. And I was taking notes while you were talking, and I think a lot of those suggestions are very helpful. Does anyone have any other suggestions or comments specifically about having student summer opportunities? And then we will go to that second portion, that second poll. And I would also like to say that if you have any suggestions at any time, you could always use the Slack. Our staff is always manning it. And in particular, I'm always looking through and kind of combing through for ideas. So you always have an opportunity to be a part of sharing your comments. All right, so the next poll.
Emily, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, please.
Sorry, I was trying to
No, it's okay,
change
Keith.
something on my screen. I couldn't find the unmute button for a
It's
second.
okay, Keith.
So two things. One is quasi-related to the question, but is it'd be great if there was a easier way for my students to like purchase access to the cyber, National Cyber League, like when they register for class, like buying it like a book. Because like I think my students, probably a lot of them get financial aid. And even though the price for this is incredibly reasonable, $35 is crazy cheap in my opinion. And I'm thrilled that it's cheap. For some of them, that's still like a bit of a burden and they have to buy it, out of pocket, like they can't pay for it through financial aid. So maybe I don't know that there's a mechanism for them to do that. And if there is, I'd love to know what that is. The second piece is for the summer, if there was like a free, like introductory version of the gym or something, where I could say to some of my lower level students and say, hey, check this out over the summer, not the entire gymnasium necessarily, but even something where I could say, go check this out. And this will give you a flavor for what we're going to be doing in the fall. That would be helpful. So.
Like an abbreviated gym?
Yeah, I understand. And I understand you don't want to give up the entire gymnasium for nothing. I totally get that. But like an abbreviated version or, maybe not even like the same thing as a gym, but more like just an introduction to like what the Cyber League is going to look like. I think that would be helpful for me to like be able to like, Joe's saying teaser introduction. Yeah, that might be useful.
And Keith, to answer your first question there, we actually do have the ability to issue NCL registration codes to a big bookstore so that the students can purchase it through financial aid. You would just need to connect us to your local bookstore so that we can get ourselves added into their system. We are already part of the Barnes & Noble and Follett system. So if you use one of those two, it's a very quick and easy process. If not, I'm sure we'll figure it out with them.
Oh no, we use Follett. I didn't even know that was.
Oh,
so
okay, yeah.
So I will just send somebody an email and figure that out.
Yeah. We're set up in their system. So if you just connect us to their representative there, we should be able to set it up.
Okay, who should I contact on your side, Franz?
If you just send it to ncl@cyberskyline.com, that'll go into our shared inbox and we'll make sure it gets to the right person.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you, Keith. Okay. Well, the last mini poll is talking about you guys, about the coaches. So we're also trying to think of some programming options to obviously respect summertime. But we were wondering if you'd like to participate in coaches meetings over the summer that are specifically based on updating and growing the competition resources. Those are particularly the resources that David shared that link to. It's a growing and thriving community document. However, it's growing very slowly, and we want to really have some attention and time being paid to it. And we were thinking of ways to make it very approachable, possibly over the summer. Of course, this is always optional, and we want to be very respectful of time, but it may also be a good time to beef up these resources, and that will kind of establish some very helpful resources, especially going into the fall. So if you have any thoughts about it, the poll should pop up on your page. And once again, we're very open to trying new things and being creative, but also doing things that are going to be most beneficial for coaches and players. And a little bit of downtime over the summer might enable us to be able to do some really great work with these resources. I'm going to leave the poll up for about another 30 seconds or so. And if anyone has any comments or thoughts about that, you can always unmute or put in the chat. And of course, we will make sure that we communicate very clearly with everybody what will be happening in the summer, low lift, low expectations. I used to be an elementary school teacher, so I loved my summers off. So I'm very aware of what this means to people. But also, once again, it just might be a really cool time to get some really strong resources developed that will help everybody across the board. Okay, terrific. Well, for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. It looks like we have some good data. I love that I have seen nobody say straight out no, which is very encouraging for us. So thank you for sharing your thoughts about that. We're going to go ahead and go to this slide, which is really just the open discussion. We are at 5 o'clock right now, and I do understand that some people may have to hop, but we do want to have an opportunity to see if anyone has any other questions or concerns while you have us on here live. You absolutely can reach out to us through Slack, also through the support ticket, through your coach's dashboard. Any way that you want to get to us, we'll be happy to help. Thank you, David. David had a hop, he has another meeting to run to. But any other questions for the coaches that are still remaining on the line?
This is Keith again. I feel like I've been a way too chatty, but I really appreciate these coaches calls. Here's my question. I am still working on the hard crypto challenge, the IP over avian carrier. And I would love to know if at some point, if I am truly stuck and I feel like I can completely stumped, I can never figure that out, can I call or email somebody to get a hint on that?
So we probably should have mentioned this while everyone else is on the call. I'll post the link in the chat, but we have a Slack channel where after each game we do a debrief and the community comes together to talk about how to solve all of the challenges. And so I would highly recommend you take a look there, because I'm sure that has been discussed in the debrief. And so if you go to, once you click on that link, it will invite you to Slack. Once you're in the Slack, there is a channel called No Answer, Only Methodology, and Methodologies and Techniques for the NCL Fall or NCL Spring 2022. And we've categorized all the different questions in that channel. And so you can go through and get to that specific question and then see the discussion there. I definitely know that there was discussion about that particular challenge.
Awesome. Thank you.
And if you don't see it, you might just need to scroll up a little bit. It's in there.
All right, any other questions or comments? I'm going to go over to just the next slide so we can wrap some things up. But if you happen to have a comment, please feel free to jump in. Let's make sure we don't have any more questions in the chat. All righty. So I truly want to sincerely appreciate everyone for a great season. I started with Cyber Skyline in January. So working with the folks at NCL and our staff and the players committee and the coaches and the players have been just a really wonderful and valuable part of the season for me to get to know everybody. We will be in touch, of course, over the summer as we think of different initiatives to create stronger resources. Feel free to reach out to our team. Of course, that Slack event is going to happen soon, so you'll get some answers for the competition. But before we wrap up, Franz, do you have any last minute thoughts?
No, I think we cover a lot of ground in this short 1 hour. I just want to say I appreciate the coaches again for your support and your encouragement for your students. And thanks for joining us and contributing your time and your thoughts in our discussion today.
Absolutely. And this will be on our YouTube channel. So the Cyber Skyline NCL channel, I would say probably by midweek. And we look forward to speaking to you all soon. And thank you for a really fabulous season. All right, everyone, have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.